Today, my husband, Tom, and I attended my nephew Kyle's birthday party at my sister-in-law Julia's house. Everything seemed normal, until it was time to eat. Julia handed out takeout sushi to everyone except me. I hesitated, confused, until she spoke words that hit me like a slap. "We didn't invite anyone who's not family, so don't just show up uninvited." Tom's face burned with anger. Without a word, he grabbed my hand, and together, we walked out. As we stepped away, something unexpected happened, making Julia collapse to her knees. "My name is Lisa James, and I'm 33 years old. I used to work as a nurse. That's how I met my husband, Tom, who is also a nurse. His kind, selfless nature drew me to him, and one day, I found the courage to ask him out. To my delight, he said yes. Our connection deepened over time, and after several dates, we naturally became a couple. Then, one magical evening, as we enjoyed a candlelit dinner overlooking the city, Tom pulled out a small velvet box. His voice was steady, yet full of emotion. "Lisa, will you marry me?" Tears welled in my eyes. "Yes," I answered without hesitation. We soon became husband and wife, and as Tom's hospital shifts grew longer, I made the decision to leave my job and support him at home. "Lisa, your cooking is the best," Tom often said, savoring each meal I made while still sharing housework. He was the kind of husband anyone would be lucky to have. When Tom's father passed away, it shook his family deeply. His mother, Mary, was left feeling lonely. Mary had always treated me like her own daughter, and I cherished her for it. Raised by my father after my parents' divorce, I never knew what a mother's love felt like, until I met Mary. Wanting to ease her loneliness, I suggested to Tom that we invite her to live with us. But Julia, his sister, was firmly against it. "I can't let Mom live in a house with strangers," she snapped, her words cutting through me like ice. Though it stung, I chose to let it go. In the end, Julia moved into their family home with Mary, claiming, "I know Mom best, so leave her to me." Still, every time I saw Mary, I noticed the quiet sadness in her eyes. She was often alone, tending to the house while Julia and her husband worked and Kyle attended daycare, so I made a habit of visiting her. Each time, Mary greeted me with warmth. "Lisa, your visits brighten my days," she would say, smiling as we sipped tea together. Then, one day, I rang the doorbell, expecting Mary, but Julia answered instead. Her sharp gaze made me pause. "What do you want?" she asked coldly. I swallowed back my nerves. "I just wanted to see Mary." Julia scoffed. "You're not family. She has nothing to say to you." She moved to close the door, but before she could, Mary appeared behind her. "Lisa, I have some sweets to share. Come in," she said kindly, ignoring Julia's glare. Before leaving for work, Julia gave her mother a final warning. "Don't forget about Kyle's food allergies. I'll be back this evening." Once she was gone, Mary sighed. "I'm so sorry about Julia. She can be difficult." I offered a reassuring smile. "It's okay, but Mary, are you really managing everything alone?" Her expression grew tired. "Yes, Julia says she's too busy with work, so I handle everything, cooking, cleaning, looking after Kyle. It's exhausting." Hearing this, I couldn't help but feel for her. Julia wasn't just keeping Mary close, she was using her. That night, I told Tom everything. His jaw tightened. "Julia's always been bossy, even when we were kids, but treating Mom like this? It's too much." A few days later, Mary called me with an unexpected request. "Lisa, there's a parent observation day at Kyle's daycare tomorrow. Every child will have their mom there, and I think Kyle will feel left out if I go instead. Could you come?" I hesitated. "Isn't Julia going?" Mary sighed. "She said she's too busy with work." "I don't understand it. It's such an important day for Kyle." I clenched the phone, frustrated on Kyle's behalf. He deserved his mother's presence. But instead of dwelling on Julia's choices, I made my own. "I'll go with you, Mary," I promised. The relief in her voice was unmistakable. The next morning, I left early, stopping by Julia's house at the time Mary had asked. On the way, I picked up some snacks, hoping to make the day a little brighter for both Mary and Kyle. Little did I know, things were about to take an unexpected turn. I thought Kyle might enjoy the snacks I brought, hoping to make the day extra special for him. When I arrived, Mary greeted me warmly at the door. "Thank you so much for doing this," she said, her voice full of gratitude. "It's no trouble at all," I reassured her. "But, are you sure Kyle will be okay with me coming instead of his mom?" Mary smiled. Of course, Kyle adores you, Lisa. He'll be thrilled to see you. Feeling reassured, we headed to the daycare together. The center buzzed with excitement, children laughing, mothers chatting, and teachers guiding activities. As we quietly watched Kyle participate, he suddenly spotted us. His face lit up with joy, and he waved enthusiastically. I waved back, matching his energy. In that moment, he looked so angelic, so full of happiness, and I felt a warmth spread in my chest. On the way home, Kyle ran up to me, his eyes sparkling. Lisa, I'm so happy you came. Let's play a lot when we get back. I chuckled at his enthusiasm. Of course, I'll think of something fun for us to do. His grin widened before he dashed off to rejoin his friends. See, Mary said with a knowing smile, I told you he loves having you around. Her words filled me with a quiet pride. Kyle's innocent affection was so pure, so effortless. Whenever we spent time together, he would beg me to play, and I found myself enjoying our little games just as much as he did. Once the observation session ended, parents and children left together. As we walked back to Julia's house, I held Kyle's small hand in mine, his grip warm and trusting. I handed him the snacks I had brought, and his eyes lit up. He clutched them excitedly, his happiness so contagious that I couldn't help but smile. Anyone watching us in that moment might have mistaken us for mother and son. But as we neared the house, Kyle's expression suddenly changed. His small fingers tightened around mine, his lower lip trembling. Then, without warning, tears spilled down his cheeks. Kyle, what's wrong? I asked, alarmed. I wanted to play with Lisa more, he sobbed. I don't like Grandma, I want Lisa. Mary's face fell, her eyes clouding with sadness. Shall we play a little longer? I offered gently. I had planned to head home after the observation, but seeing Kyle so distraught, I couldn't bring myself to leave just yet. His joy meant so much to me. And so, we played. Time slipped away as we laughed, ran around, and built imaginary worlds together. Before I knew it, evening had crept in, and Mary looked exhausted. Realizing she hadn't had a break all day, I made a quick decision. Kyle, what would you like for dinner? I asked. A hamburger, a big one, he exclaimed without hesitation. I checked the fridge for ingredients and quickly put together a homemade burger, making sure to avoid eggs because of Kyle's allergy. For a final touch, I used ketchup to draw a happy face on top. Kyle squealed with excitement. Eat up, Kyle, enjoy, I said with a smile. He took a big bite, his face lighting up. Thank you, Lisa, you're the best. After dinner, Mary walked me to the door, Kyle trailing behind, looking disappointed that I had to leave. Just as I was about to step out, the front door swung open. I'm home, a familiar voice called out. Julia's husband, Jack, entered, his presence quiet yet grounding. Unlike Julia, he was a reserved man, someone I had exchanged only a handful of words with over the years. I'm sorry for staying so late, I said quickly. I'll be leaving now. Jack shook his head. Don't apologize. Honestly, this should be my wife's responsibility. Thank you for helping out. Kyle looks so happy. I had so much fun with Lisa today, Kyle chimed in, his smile wide and genuine. Jack's expression softened. That's good to hear. But just as I was about to leave, a familiar, sharp voice sliced through the moment. What are you doing here again? Julia. Her gaze was cold, her tone laced with irritation. I asked Lisa to come today. Mary spoke up. She even went to Kyle's daycare observation and made dinner. But Julia's expression only darkened. Without hesitation, she grabbed the plate holding the hamburger I had made and, before anyone could react, threw it into the trash. The room fell silent. Even Kyle froze, his tiny body stiff with shock. Jack, his face pale with disbelief, immediately retrieved the plate from the trash can. What are you doing, Julia? His voice wavered with anger. Lisa put effort into making this. Julia scoffed. Don't talk to me like that. I earn just as much as you, if not more. Show some respect. Jack's shoulders slumped, his anger dimming into something heavier, defeat. It was painfully clear that Julia's domineering nature weighed on him, just as it did on everyone else in this house. I swallowed the lump in my throat and took a shaky breath. I'm sorry for overstepping. I'll leave now. Julia's glare remained unwavering. Stay out of my kitchen next time, or you'll regret it. Fighting back tears, I hurried out of the house. By the time I reached home, the weight of the evening crashed over me. Tom was already back, standing at the stove, preparing dinner. The moment he saw my tear-streaked face, He rushed over, concern etched in every line of his face. Lisa, what happened? I told him everything, every cruel word, every unspoken hurt. As I spoke, his hands clenched into fists, his jaw tightening with fury. Julia again? His voice was low, simmering with anger. I'm calling her right now. He grabbed his phone. No, please don't, I said quickly, placing my hand over his. I don't want things to get worse. Tom let out a heavy sigh, staring at his phone for a moment before setting it down. Then, without hesitation, he pulled me into his arms. I'm always on your side, Lisa, no matter what. I closed my eyes, sinking into his embrace, grateful beyond words. 4 days, I avoided Julia's house. The thought of another confrontation, of facing her cruel words again, made my stomach churn. Then, one afternoon, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Julia. My breath hitched. Why was she calling me? Heart pounding, I hesitated before finally answering. Hello? The line was quiet for a moment. Then, Julia spoke. Her voice was different this time, shaky, hesitant. Lisa. I need your help, I answered the call hesitantly, the uncertainty hanging in the air. Next week is Kyle's birthday, Julia's voice came through, sharp and direct. We're having a party, so make sure Tom comes. Before I could say anything, she added, almost dismissively, and don't forget the birthday present. With that, she hung up. I stood there, frozen for a moment, trying to wrap my mind around the fact that, after everything that had happened, Julia was inviting us to Kyle's birthday party. I told Tom about the call, and his expression darkened. There's something going on, he murmured, suspicion thick in his tone. Maybe, I replied, my voice uncertain, but it's for Kyle. We should go, for him. The day of the party arrived, and Kyle was practically bouncing with excitement as he showed Julia the gift we had brought. Look, Mom, he exclaimed, holding it up with bright, innocent eyes. But Julia's response was immediate and cruel. What a cheap-looking toy, she scoffed, her voice laced with disdain. Her words sliced through the moment like a sharp blade, leaving me stunned and speechless. You two don't even have kids, so you must have plenty of money, Julia continued, her gaze cold and judgmental. You could have gotten Kyle something better. I opened my mouth, ready to protest, but even Tom was too stunned to speak. Then, to my surprise, Kyle's voice rang out, pure and unwavering. This is what I wanted, he shouted, clutching the toy in his small hands. Don't be mean to Lisa. His words, so innocent and heartfelt, hit me like a punch to the gut. They seemed to shake Julia, but her anger flared instead of receding. If you love Lisa so much, she spat, why don't you become her kid? The venom in her words was palpable. Kyle's lips trembled, and tears began to fall from his wide, confused eyes. Jack, thankfully, stepped in then, scooping Kyle up into his arms and whispering comfort into his ear. I stood there, my heart breaking for that little boy, watching him struggle with emotions he shouldn't have to carry. Just then, the doorbell rang, breaking the heavy silence. Lisa, the sushi delivery's here, did you get it? Julia asked, her voice as casual as ever. Sure, I replied, needing a break from the tension. At the door, the delivery man handed me the order. 5 sets, 1 kid's sushi set and 4 adult sets, he announced. I was confused for a moment. Weren't there supposed to be 6 sets? There are only 4 adult ones. Julia didn't even glance at me as she answered flatly, that's correct, and handed over the payment. Her dismissive tone bothered me, but I decided not to press the issue. When I returned to the table, something even stranger caught my attention. There was no chair for me. Tom immediately stood, ready to offer his seat, but Julia was quicker. Lisa, that's Tom's seat, she said coolly, pointing toward a small side table in the corner. We're a bit short on space, so not everyone can sit at the main table. Sorry. The mock apologetic tone in her voice only stung more. Hurt, but unwilling to make a scene, I quietly sat where she had directed me. When the sushi arrived, I noticed something unsettling. Lisa doesn't have any sushi, Mary pointed out, her brow furrowing in confusion. Julia's cruel laugh filled the air. We didn't order for anyone who isn't family, she said, her eyes meeting mine with a coldness that stung like ice. Her words confirmed everything I had suspected. She didn't see me as family. Tom's anger flared then, his fists clenching. That's enough, Julia. Lisa, we're leaving. He took my hand firmly, and we walked out without another word. Back home, Tom pulled me into his arms, his voice soft but filled with fury. "I'm sorry for what she said," he murmured, holding me tightly as I allowed myself to break down. His unwavering support was the only thing keeping me from losing myself in the pain of it all. That evening, Mary called with unexpected news. "Julia got food poisoning from the sushi and had to go to the hospital," she said, her voice tense. I was stunned. "Are Jack and Kyle okay?" "Yes, they ate the sushi too, but only Julia got sick," Mary replied. "But Kyle was worried about you, Lisa," Tom overheard and muttered under his breath. "Karma." 3 days later, Julia appeared at our doorstep, storming in with Jack and Mary trailing behind her. She didn't knock, didn't wait to be invited. Her presence was as cold and unwelcome as ever. "How dare you live here in this tiny house?" she sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. I was still reeling from the call, still trying to process everything. "What brings you here?" I asked, stunned. Julia's expression twisted, darkening with fury. "You poisoned the sushi, didn't you? I'll sue you for damages." The absurdity of her accusations drained the strength from me, but I remained calm. "I didn't do anything, I just accepted the delivery." Before I could say more, Mary's voice cut through the tension, booming like thunder. "Enough," she commanded, stepping forward. To everyone's shock, Mary exposed Julia's hidden affair, complete with photographic proof. The room went silent, and Jack's face went ashen as he stared at the evidence in disbelief. After a heated argument, Jack took Kyle and left, declaring he was filing for divorce. Mary announced that she would sell the family home and sever all ties with Julia. 6 months later, Julia and Jack's divorce was finalized. Kyle stayed with his father, and Julia, with nowhere else to turn, moved into a small apartment. She tried to reconcile with Mary, but her efforts were in vain. The bridges she had burned were too many. As for Tom and me, we began a new chapter. One evening, as we celebrated moving into our new home, I shared exciting news with Mary. "By winter, there will be 2 grandchildren," I said, a smile spreading across my face. Mary's eyes widened, her joy palpable. "Lisa, are you?" "Yes," I confirmed, my heart full. "I'm 3 months pregnant." Tears of happiness welled up in Mary's eyes, and she hugged me tightly. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace, of hope. For the first time in a long while, everything felt right.